Hello everyone, welcome to the Secrets of the Darakaraka Part 2. On this video we're going to dig even deeper into the secrets of the soulmate planet in your chart. We're looking also at the house placements of the Darakaraka. What is it really telling you about spouse or partner? In addition, we're looking at some famous charts to get a deeper analysis. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below, and if the video is good for you, give it a thumbs up. Let's go! The Darakaraka then is our soulmate, who we are seeking. It's the lowest degree planet in our chart. It's the soul of our partner, the soul who we are most attracted to because we have deep karmas together. Now, if you've not seen part 1 of this series, you should check it out straight away to find out who is the actual Darakaraka in your chart, because you may have the wrong planet calculated previously, and find out the actual meaning, what that planet says about your soulmate. The link is below. So let's dig deeper into the deep significance of the Darakaraka. The first point is that Darakaraka is not just soulmate. It is a significator of wealth in your life as well. Now, I hinted strongly at this in my first video. In every interpretation of each Darakaraka planet, I spoke about wealth specifically, which you can gain through your partner, how that can happen. But here's another factor. You don't have to be in relationship. Darakaraka is supporting Atmakaraka, giving sustenance, having your back, as I say. Now, don't confuse Darakaraka with your career path, with your career choice, what you do in the world. Darakaraka is about what attributes bring you success, bring you wealth. That's what it's about. Finding security, finding sustenance. That's the Darakaraka. So let me give you some examples of this. If you've got Jupiter Darakaraka, you could be a teacher, of course, but even if you are not a teacher, mentoring, giving advice to others, help to others, knowledge in whatever career you do, this will increase wealth. This will be fortunate for you. Venus Darakaraka, relations, friendships, connections to others, network circles, cooperating, teamwork, all of this becomes important, bringing wealth into your life. Two more quick examples. Rahu Darakaraka, being original, doing something daring, different, thinking outside of the box, outside of the borders, even connecting to foreign lands in some way, or maybe the internet, these things, doing something which is perhaps not typical of people who you know. This is what Rahu Darakaraka is about. It's definitely about being independent, doing something different, or doing your career in a completely different way. Mars Darakaraka, getting well through, again, independent, aggressive, sometimes daring action, but it's about discipline, absolute focus when you have Mars Darakaraka. Another factor about Darakaraka, people asked about this quite a few times on my first video. What if my Darakaraka soulmate planet should be retrograde in my chart? Well, here's the answer. Definitely. You have to try again. That's what retrogrades are all about. Keep on trying, because you may have to go through failed relationships. You may have to go through many splits, ups and downs, comings and goings, even with the same person, until soulmate situation settles down. Those are the karmas connected with retrograde Darakaraka. Another question many of you have asked me, what if the Atmakaraka highest degree planet and the Darakaraka lowest degree are together in a conjunction? Don't forget, conjunction means same sign, not necessarily close by degree. I can understand why you're asking, because you might think highest degree planet, lowest degree planet coming together, your soul, soulmate, significator, it's going to be a very special thing, even like a twin flame or something. But that's not what's happening at all. Let me tell you quite frankly what's going on here. You might hear it's a sort of Raj yoga, some very special factor, magical factor happening. It can be for wealth, I have to say. It could bring you wealth in your life depending on the planets involved. That can be good. That could be seen, because I've just explained to you Darakaraka is about wealth, not just relationships. But in regard to relationships, it's not so easy. What you have to see is, who are these two planets involved, and are there any other planets there as well? The more planets in a house, the more difficult it gets, by the way. It's just like too many cooks spoil the broth, too many people in a house, not enough space, right? And frequently conjunctions in astrology can be difficult. Check the videos on my channel, that big playlist I've got about conjunctions. Listen to that, because if you've got Atmakaraka Darakaraka together, check that particular video. That may help you. It really so much depends on the planets involved, everybody. Say you've got Moon, either Darakaraka, Atmakaraka, and Rahu is the other one. There's going to be tension, obsession, difficulty, trials. It's going to go up and down frequently in this karmic relationship situation. It's not going to be smooth, not going to be easy at all. You see, in astrology, when we discuss Raj yogas, it's about wealth, it's about abundance more than intimate relationship. Ancient Vedic astrologers did not see soulmate connections between people as some special, magical, wonderful factor. Marriage was just getting together, having children. So let's not try to put meaning where there is no meaning. Having said that, everybody, not to disappoint you, there is a very interesting chart at the end of my video. One very well-known celebrity who has this exact conjunction. Check it out. Darakaraka, Atmakaraka together in a very prominent part of their chart. And what about the sign of your Darakaraka? Is that significant? It definitely is. The Rasi or sign position of your lowest degree planet shows something very significant about your spouse or your partner. It's important to distinguish between the actual Darakaraka planet itself, everyone, and the sign of that Darakaraka in your chart. Let's have an example. Say you've got Moon Darakaraka, lowest degree planet. You are seeking that nurturance, nourishment, domesticity, children perhaps, all of those Moon security factors in a relationship. And certainly because it is your Darakaraka, you will encourage those factors in the spouse. And that's what will actually manifest itself. But here's the thing, what about their particular specific personality? It's quite funny, everybody, no matter how many spouse, how many relationships, serious relationships we go through, have you ever noticed how people tend to attract a similar type of spouse? Time and again, you can see this because what you are attracting is typical of the sign placement of your Darakaraka. That's how it's going to work. To find out more about the sign of your Darakaraka, then check the playlist below this video, Planetary Karmas, All Signs, where you can actually check specifically the sign position of your Darakaraka. Find out more about personality of your spouse. And by the way, definitely read this in your D1 birth chart. First and foremost, that's the place to look for the sign of the Darakaraka and its significance. Next, and very importantly, the house position of the Darakaraka in your chart. How will spouse influence your destiny, your life? This is seen by the house position of the Darakaraka. Now, the question arises, do you look at D1 birth chart or D9 Navamsa to see Darakaraka? The answer is both. Traditionally, D9 would be after committed relationship, after formal marriage, but these days boundaries have definitely shifted. It's hard to distinguish anyway because D9 is spouse in your life but also your total destiny. So D1, D9, see both, everybody. Check the end of the video definitely where I can show you some actual horoscopes bringing it home how D1 and D9 are very important to see the house position, Darakaraka both. Don't just limit it, that's the thing. Furthermore, you can see Darakaraka in the houses of every single Varga chart. Even D10. D10, your career, fame, position in life. If you, let's say you've got Darakaraka first house of your D10 chart, then spouse, soulmate is going to promote your career. Sometimes you only find true career place in life after meeting soulmate. I've actually seen this. So with all of that in mind, let's move on and look at the very important house positions of the Darakaraka in your charts. And when the Darakaraka is in the first house of your chart, D1, D9, and even in different Varga charts, a whole new phase of your life begins when you meet soulmate. They just get rid of the past, start everything from scratch. It's a most favorable factor. They can even bring you fame, fortune into your life. Everything increases when Darakaraka is in the first house and you actually connect to this soulmate. Now, ascendant is path in life, decisions in life. So Darakaraka here, spouse, soulmate, directly influences your decisions. Now, this could be true for everybody, but for you, it's a significant factor. Your life is simply going in a completely different direction in every way after soulmate comes into your life. The Lagna is about health, fitness as well, definitely. Darakaraka here, spouse promotes your well-being, you promote spouse's well-being. It's a two-way factor. Darakaraka is in the second house, so this is a house of family. So spouse, partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, soulmate has to get on with your family, or you are introduced to them through family circle. In some way, this is commonly seen. It's a house of family values, security, feeling safe, feeling actually supported. So Darakaraka here, all of this can come from your spouse. But if there is any malefic affliction, then you can become insecure very, very quickly. That's a problem. It's a house of monetary factors, wealth, of course. Darakaraka here, because Darakaraka represents wealth, as I've explained earlier on in the video, you can have wealth increase of it through your spouse, even business relationship with your spouse, because Darakaraka influences the 8th house about business partnership. And it's a house of values, family values particularly, but all moral values in life. Spouse has a direct impact on this and even changes your whole value system completely. Sometimes this can occur when you have Darakaraka in the 2nd house. When the Darakaraka has gone to the 3rd house, be aware there can be some quarrels and arguments, and that's putting it lightly, because ego development is very strong in this house. So Darakaraka shows that spouse has a really strong ego, desire to be right, but so have you. There's going to be some direct confrontations. Whatever you do, you've got to try to calm it down. Go for compromise at every point possible. That's the best way forward when you have Darakaraka in the 3rd house of any chart, actually, especially D1 and D9 chart. Another factor, this is a house of sexual intercourse, did you know? So actually 3rd house relationships, Darakaraka here, can become very, very sexualized, even obsession, or try to calm it down a little bit, or it can actually cause more problems than it is actually worth. Good news, you will talk everything through, and that's a beneficial factor. Make it calm, make it purposeful, because Darakaraka here, you don't tend to have secrets with your spouse. This is helpful. Make the best of this. The Drishti onto the 9th house shows that soulmate may be from far distant shore, foreign land, and you may travel to actually find soulmate or to be with the soulmate. Darakaraka has gone to the 4th house of your chart. This is about security, peacefulness, home life and happiness. So spouse can actually increase all of this in your life. If there is no malefic affliction, definitely you will seek to be permanently living together. You don't like to be apart from your spouse. Security, happiness and permanency of the relationship, traditionally so, is really important to you. It's a house of happiness. It's a very fortunate placement to have Darakaraka 4th house, actually. Better the aspect, more fortune it is. Certainly you can have wealth increase, security increase through your partner. Properties together can be owned, and actually it can be very fortunate for your long-term increase in your prosperity. You're very attached to your country of birth, country of origin with this Darakaraka. Spouse often shares that background with you, comes from your culture, or you can find spouse in your country of birth. Very often this is seen. Darakaraka being in the 5th house, just like ascendant, this trine firehouse of Darakaraka's presence means that you will definitely start a whole new phase of your life when you meet your soulmate. And this is true both in the D1 and the D9 chart. 5th house is a house of learning, education. Now, this can be quite interesting. Sometimes you or spouse begin a new educational program after you get together, or you can meet in some formal learning environment. This is frequently seen. But it's a house of fan base as well. So you are each other's biggest fan. You motivate each other, push each other forward, have each other's back. It's a very mutually supportive factor normally. Of course, if there are malefics afflicting Darakaraka here occasionally, that can have some ups and downs. But generally, it's a favourable placement. And of course, children, fifth house is about children, binds you together very strongly. When Darakaraka has gone to the sixth house of your chart, D1 or D9, just like third house, there's a competitive edge between you and your spouse. You feel like you are competitors sometimes. What must you do? Don't compete with each other. Compete together. Find some outer cause to take both of your energies outwards, because Darakaraka here means simply that you are both competitive people, but you don't want to fight with each other. That's the point. It's a house of service to humanity. There's no doubt. Darakaraka here is not about sitting at home quietly together, having this intimate private life. No. Soulmate planet, sixth house, you and your spouse have to go out together doing some good deeds in the world. That's your sole purpose. Being together is to have this service attitude together. Now, very often, sometimes spouse or yourself are in medical field, working with non-human animals sometimes, humans, emergency services, all of these sixth house factors. In some way, you are doing something to help humanity, help environment, help the world. Some cause has to be there. Once you are actively engaged in this relationship can definitely flourish. But what's going to happen if you are not actively so engaged is Darakaraka shines an active spotlight onto each other, criticizing each other, finding fault with each other, trying to purify each other. You don't want that to be happening. Good thing you can actually help each other's health, well-being, go on diets together, exercise routine. All of these things are very beneficial done together when the Darakaraka is in the sixth house. Now, it is a house of divorce, separation, but do not fear. Many long-lasting relationships have this Darakaraka if they are actively so engaged. And actually, what it's about is actually serving each other as well, serving each other through all of the ups and downs of life. Sometimes there is occasionally separation, divorce, but this is not the only significator of that to be found in a chart. Important to have that perspective. When the Darakaraka has gone to the seventh house of your chart, relationship is all important to you. It's the most important factor in your life sometimes, or definitely takes up a huge amount of your attention. You need to have a spouse, need to have a partner. It's central to you very often. It can even get a little bit obsessive, especially when Darakaraka is a malefic planet or malefics are sitting with Darakaraka or aspecting Darakaraka. You see, what's happening here, everyone? Darakaraka has a full laser beam aspect onto you, ascendant, but equally, you have that laser beam onto Darakaraka. It can be all-consuming, sometimes a little bit too much, this Darakaraka seventh house. Moderation has to be there. Otherwise, it can cause a sort of imbalance in your total life affairs. Spouse is important, but other factors in your life have to be as important. That is generally seen. More than that, I've actually seen business relationship working together with a spouse frequently seen. It is that all-consuming, where you're spending all day, all night with the spouse. It can become a little bit too much. A little bit of space from each other can actually build a much happier relationship, much more trusting relationship when you have Darakaraka seventh house. Strange thing, just like Darakaraka sixth house, Darakaraka seventh house, there can be a very critical edge coming from spouse towards you and you towards spouse, because you're spending so much time together. You're seeing all of those faults in their glaring colors, as it were. So it is good to have time alone from the spouse, good to have a little bit of space, making all of your intimate moments so much fresher, so much happier. When the Darakaraka soulmate planet's in the 8th house, don't be afraid of this. Yes, there is some deep debt between you, but to be honest, everybody has a debt with their Darakaraka spouse. Otherwise, you wouldn't get together, anybody. It just wouldn't happen. But when it's in the 8th house, there's a specific karma together that you, both of you, have to actually transform yourself, change yourself to continue in this relationship. Something has to be given up. Very often it's about changing unwanted habits, becoming stronger, more independent person by being in this relationship. One thing about 8th house Darakaraka, you must be honest, open, trusting with your spouse, even if you don't feel like you can be. Very often 8th house Darakaraka, you can become jealous, suspicious, a bit clingy, holding on, possessive and untrusting. What you must do, no matter what the situation is, have complete clarity, honesty with your spouse. When you do this, you will either transform the relationship into workable situation, or you will have to let it go. Then you can find soulmate. But soulmate only comes through this absolute total clarity, total transformation. You see, you have to keep to the highest ethical standards here. Once you go through that difficult dark night of the soul with your soulmate, literally, once you go through all of those difficult moments, you come out stronger, more able to commit, more able to have a real soulmate giving situation. Don't forget, soulmate is not cellmate. That's something which we all have to keep in mind. But don't forget, Darakaraka is about wealth as well, as I've spoken about first part of the video. Check that out if you didn't hear it, because Darakaraka here can increase wealth, investments, legacies, wills, and certainly through stock market occasionally if it is well aspected. Thing is, you have a good knack of how to make money work for you, but again, you must be totally ethical above board if it's going to come out good for you when you have Darakaraka in the 8th house. Darakaraka has gone to the 9th house of your chart, either D1 or D9 chart, just the same. Some wisdom's coming to you from your spouse, from your soulmate. You are sharing philosophical, religious factors, or maybe you are arguing about them, but you are exploring them together. So you may travel with spouse, you may even study together, or you may meet together while you are studying any subject whatsoever. You need to keep on expanding together, growing together. Can't just stagnate when you have Darakaraka in the 9th house. On a very mundane level, you may actually meet spouse while you are traveling abroad, or spouse could be from a different culture. That can be seen. Generally, though, it's a positive thing. Darakaraka 9th house. You can have each other's back. You can support each other mentally, spiritually, and you will definitely guide each other. That's the thing. It's generally good and supportive factor. Your Darakaraka planet's gone to the 10th house of your D1, D9, or any Varga chart, but especially these two. Your spouse promotes you, maybe even gives you wealth or gives you help in some way. They will make your life more fortunate, because 10th house is about your public life. In some way, soulmate promotes you, extends your ambitious nature, pushes you forward, definitely gives you a great deal of support, attaining ambitions, career success, and prominence in life. Sometimes here, spouse can have a higher social status than yourself, and being with spouse, you go up a notch in society. That can be seen. But in another way, you become more ambitious, more determined to succeed by being with your soulmate. Of course, Darakaraka also represents wealth. Now, particularly D9 chart, 10th house relates to this especially. Darakaraka, benefic Darakaraka especially, well aspected here. Spouse can increase wealth enormously in your life. It can be seen even with a malefic Darakaraka, but sometimes slightly less so I've seen. But generally, D1 or D9, 10th house Darakaraka, wealth, prosperity, and social status can increase with your spouse, with your soulmate. Darakaraka is in the 11th house. This is a house of wider network circles. Your spouse must have a similar network to yourself, similar way of connecting to the world. Sometimes I've seen actually you can actually meet spouse in the workplace because work colleagues are actually shown by this 11th house. That is one interpretation. It's a house of gain, so working with your soulmate as a team, that's the thing, both of you together, you can increase wealth together, support each other doing this, becoming ambitious together. That's a factor commonly seen as well. Another factor is Darakaraka here is about socially integrating together. It's really important. That's why it can actually help to have a similar social background to each other, so your network circles blend. What it's about is not sitting at home together privately, quietly, secluded. That's not what Darakaraka 11th house is about. You can have a very active social life actually with your spouse when you have Darakaraka here, because you need to be doing that. Can't be just sitting around together privately, as I say. You see, Darakaraka here, just like in the 6th house, you have to be doing something for society together. Politically, socially, culturally, charity work, whatever it is, having some ambition, some part in the societal good, having some work for the greater society together. This promotes longevity of the relationship. Now, when the Darakaraka planet's gone into the 12th house, everybody, it's gone furthest away from you. This can be D1 or D9 equally. Darakaraka here means that you will find a spouse, find soulmate who is very different to yourself, someone who is really outside of your experience, someone who you would not expect to actually get together with. That's the actual general indication. Very often something about spouse's way of being, way of acting is strange to you, different to you, beyond your experience because of this different, slightly different upbringing background. But you have to be patient with the spouse to make this relationship work. Certainly spouse can be from foreign land, or you can meet spouse in a foreign land commonly seen, but you can equally meet spouse in those 12th house places like hospitals, schools, even prisons, who knows. One thing for sure though, Darakaraka 12th house, it's an uppity beginning, up and down to begin with. As you become accustomed to each other, there can even be a little bit of secrecy about you being together occasionally. This can be seen. Sometimes you can spend a lot of time apart from your spouse. You could even have a long distance relationship with this Darakaraka position. One thing though, it does increase, just like the 8th house, suspicions, phobias, fears around the relationship. Very important when you have Darakaraka 12th house. Be open, be completely honest, forthright with your spouse, even if you are afraid to be so. This will help the relationship enormously. Now, what about DASHA and timing? This is so important, everyone. Let me speak a little bit more detail about this now. Yes, very often you meet your soulmate and increase abundance, by the way, wealth in your life during the Mahadasha, Vimsotri Mahadasha of your Darakaraka planet. This is frequently seen. Or it can actually happen in the Antardasha of that planet. I can't tell you how many times I've seen wealth increase, definitely by the way, in that Darakaraka Antardasha Bhukti period. But it's not set in stone. Sometimes conjunctions alter it. I've actually seen this happen a few times. So look at any planets in a direct conjunction, same sign, same house, with your Darakaraka planet. That planet's Mahadasha will very often manifest soulmate as well. In fact, I've got a very clear example of that with a very public figure, which I'm going to show you in my example charts. But finally, very importantly, actually, make sure you have the right Vimsotri Mahadasha, everybody, or timing will be off. What do I mean by this? About 50% of the population, Janma Tara of the moon, does not begin Vimsotri for you. That this is not generally known, and it puts timing off completely for many people. Even makes them think that Vedic astrology doesn't work. Let's go down that route. Check the video on my channel, link below, alternate Mahadasha. Understand how to get the correct Mahadasha for yourself, then timing will be good. Any problems with that, of course, comment below and I will definitely try to help you. And don't be concerned if you should go through Mahadasha of your soulmate planet and you are already married in a relationship. It doesn't mean that's going to end necessarily. We can have more than one soulmate. It's just not so straightforward. And don't forget, Darakaraka can just increase emphasis on having a more harmonious relationship together during its Mahadasha, or simply increase abundance in your life frequently seen. So with that in mind, let's bring it all together with the example charts. Don't forget, it's not going to be exhaustive analysis here. We're going to just zoom in totally on that Darakaraka planet, focusing on timing as well. Let's begin. Start with a very startling example, actually, that of Camilla Parker Bowles, now Queen of England, married to Prince Charles for some time. Now he is King of England, she is Queen Camilla. The lowest degree planet is the Sun. What more can I say? Sun is the king, but really what she's looking for is an authoritative, purposeful, commanding individual. That's what people do look for when they have the Sun as their Darakaraka. Now for Camilla, the Sun, the lowest degree planet Darakaraka, is placed in the first house. It's going to mean that the spouse has a direct changing impact on her whole destiny. The Sun is with 10th house, in the 10th house D9, meaning she has wealth, increase in her status, everything from this Darakaraka spouse. It's far from straightforward, everybody, though, because the Darakaraka is in a conjunction to Saturn. Sun and Saturn are enemies to each other, and Saturn is the lord of the house of marriage. More than that, it's the 8th house lord as well, the house of transformation. And more than that, even perhaps the most important thing, Saturn is in a death-like situation in the first house, Atmakaraka, impacting the soulmate planet Darakaraka itself. So we could say for certain, just looking at these factors, that this individual is going to go through some really trying karmas on the road to settling with a soulmate. That is glaringly obvious. Let's look at timings now, everybody. Camilla's been married twice to Andrew Parker Bowles, first of all, in her 20s. He was an army officer, definitely high position, definitely Sun-like qualities. And her second husband, of course, is the king himself, the Sun. You couldn't be more apt. But here's the other question. When did she meet them? Which Mahadasha brought in the soulmate? Now, as I've said earlier on in the video, we have to make sure we have the right Vimsotri Mahadasha, or timing won't work at all. For Camilla, we have to use an alternate starting point. Why? Because her Mercury, which is Atmakaraka, is with the moon, same sign. Therefore, Vimsotri starts not from Moon Tara, but from Mercury Tara. So we have to time in this way. Now, Camilla met her first husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, in the late 1960s, in her 20s, and she married him in 1973. However, she met Prince Charles in 1971, when there was some attraction between them, but she actually went on to marry Andrew Parker Bowles. This shows us the importance, everybody, to note conjunctions to the Darakaraka planet, because it was in Saturn Mahadasha that all of these important destiny events happened. Saturn Mahadasha from 1955 to 1974, she met first husband, married him, but before she married him, had this fling with Prince Charles, which did not continue on to marriage. So the importance of these conjunctions cannot be underestimated. But of course, this challenging Atmakaraka position of this Shani, this messy situation with this Darakaraka, shows that she can meet soulmate, but she cannot get together with him. There's going to be constriction, difficult situations happening. So the question is, what did happen when she was in the Mahadasha of the Sun, Mahadasha of her Darakaraka? Well, the answer is she's in Sun Mahadasha right now since 2018. During this time, she became the Queen of England this year. So this Sun Mahadasha is manifesting her status, prominence, authority with her partner, with her soulmate. It is fulfilling the actual destiny of this Darakaraka planet in her chart. Perfect timing, in fact. Let's look at one of the most famous, if not the most famous, rock stars in the world, legend of rock and roll, Mick Jagger, lead singer with the Rolling Stones. Now for Mick Jagger, lowest degree planet, Darakaraka is the moon. Moon means that people are looking for domesticity, a very much family atmosphere, definitely want to have kids, definitely have this need to be nurtured, mothered even sometimes. Let's look at the house positions. Moon is in first house, very, very favorable position because it means that every time he starts a new relationship, it's a whole new phase in his life. But in the D9, it's in the 7th house, a bit more difficult. As I've said earlier on in the video, 7th house Darakaraka, it's very demanding on the spouse. Very, very much as though you need a lot from the spouse. So Mick Jagger has got a lot of emotional neediness. You mightn't see it, but he's definitely got that. But another factor I'm sure you can see is that the moon is with Saturn. And Saturn is in, once again, a Maranakaraka Stana position, just like Queen Camilla. But it's the moon, not the sun. Moon Saturn can show depression or at least some emotional coldness coming into relationships. But even more than this, there's something else happening. Mick Jagger has in his first house not only Darakaraka, but Saturn is the Atmakaraka. So here's an example, as I was speaking about earlier, because many of you asked me about it, of the Atmakaraka with the Darakaraka in the same house. Now, certainly moon is exalted. Mick Jagger has got success, prominence, all of those Raj Yoga factors you could see. Moon first house, popularity, wealth, definitely moon, Saturn conjunction. Here is a Darakaraka, Atmakaraka factor, but is not found his soulmate. As I say, it is not a magical formula, everybody. Let's be real here. But I will say this, though. There is a dissatisfaction inherent in this Moon-Saturn conjunction. That's the thing. In fact, didn't he write a song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction? Well, definitely, everybody, that's the problem, I think, for Mick Jagger in his relationships. You see, Mick Jagger's had so many relationships, everybody, some of them really long-lasting. I wouldn't even want to look them up. But he was married legally once only to Bianca Jagger. Had a very long-lasting relationship with the model Jerry Hall. But they also had a commitment ceremony, by the way, but it was not legal. That's the thing. One thing, though, he is not afraid to commit to, and that is making babies. So Mick Jagger has had 8 children with 5 different females. What can I say? Moon Darakaraka wants to have kids, wants the family. He's definitely had that. Well, maybe Sir Mick hasn't found his soulmate, you may be saying, because he hasn't been through Moon Mahadasha yet. Let's look at the timing of this. Now, just like Queen Camilla, Mick Jagger's Vimsotri Dasha must start from the Atmakaraka planet. Why? Because the moon is situated same sign as his Atmakaraka Saturn. So Vimsotri Dasha starts from Saturn Tara in this way. And by this calculation, the Vimsotri Dasha of his Darakaraka soulmate planet doesn't begin until Sir Mick is 101 years of age. So I could just be cynical and say, let's watch this space, everybody. But really, I think Mick Jagger has already met a soulmate. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to bring up all the charts of every single girlfriend he has had. But let's be realistic. He's already gone through, he's 80 years of age, by the way. He's already gone through so many periods of a antadasha of the moon. He's had more than enough time to meet that special person. I'm sure that he has. Problem was, he just couldn't settle. That's what we are seeing here. Or maybe there's some other psychological factors going on. I can see it in the birth chart. Can you, with that packed 3rd house? We're not going to talk about that here. But don't forget, You can meet a soulmate but not be able to stay with them because of many other factors. Don't forget that, everyone. Let's look at the chart of another famous rock and roll person, this time the genius guitarist Eric Clapton, for whom it was actually scrawled on the London Underground in the early 1970s, Clapton is God. Well, he's not God, not even a god at all, but he's definitely a very good example of Mercury Darakaraka, especially with the timing. So a Mercury Darakaraka person, he'll be looking for youthfulness, friendliness, fun, and definitely intellectual compatibility with a spouse. But it's with Venus he'd be looking for beauty as well, definitely. But you see, Venus is Lord here. So Lord in a very close conjunction to this Darakaraka, he can become a bit obsessional about the spouse as well. And it's definitely shown in the D9. Darakaraka's gone into the obsessional, all-possessive 8th house. Eric Clapton's going to go through some real ups and downs, some complete transformations in connection to finding and keeping his soulmate. And of course, it's a Atmakaraka Stana, a death-like situation for this Darakaraka. Does this mean he's never going to find soulmate? He did actually. We're going to show perfect timing with this, by the way. But he certainly went through the absolute transformative, completely chaotic and, let's say, virtually death-like situations in his search for his soulmate. Now, Eric Clapton's had 3 marriages, everyone, but we're just going to focus on 2 in this video, just for the brevity of it. Why? Because first one showed all of the chaos of this Mercury Darakaraka, as I'm going to illustrate to you, and the last one happened in the actual Mahadasha of Mercury itself. Eric Clapton's first marriage was to the very beautiful, iconic 60s model, Pattie Boyd. But at the time that he met Pattie, she was already married. Married, in fact, to George Harrison, one of the Beatles. And it became a total drama, everybody. First level, George Harrison was Eric Clapton's best friend. Secondly, Pattie Boyd did not want to leave her husband to be with Eric Clapton. She totally rejected him. And from this rejection, he became obsessional. Has to be said, though, from this completely rejected, obsessional and dejected position, Eric Clapton wrote one of the most iconic, beautiful rock ballads ever, Layla, all about his feelings for Pattie Boyd. If you've not heard that, check it out. But still, Pattie Boyd didn't want to leave her husband, George Harrison, to be with Eric Clapton. Even then, he threatened her, if you don't leave him, I'm going to become a heroin addict. And sure enough, he did. He went into a whole downward spiral of drug abuse and alcoholism, actually. But eventually he came out of it and she did marry him, but it did not last. So all of this drama happened actually during his Jupiter Mahadasha. That's the thing. Jupiter in the D9 chart, sure enough, is in a Atmakaraka Stana position, with the moon affecting his mind, affecting his mental stability. But it's more than that. You see, everyone, it's about this Mercury 8th house D9. This Darakaraka position means that you have to go through some total transformation to find soulmate very, very often. So when he eventually enters Mercury soulmate Mahadasha, he is in his 50s. And during this Mercury Dasha, he met his second wife. She was a waitress, I believe, in a restaurant in America when he met her, and she was considerably younger than him. Typical, actually, of this Mercury Darakaraka. They've been together now for over 20 years, and they've got 3 children. David Bowie, just like Eric Clapton, perfect example of Darakaraka working, matching Mahadasha. So Darakaraka is Venus. Venus is in 11th house, D1. Venus is in 6th house, however, D9. Now, looking at Venus's position, it's in the 11th house. He's going to meet someone from his own network circles, but in the 6th house, D9, it's going to be quarrel, contention, difficulty, and especially because Venus is the 7th lord in this D9 chart, potential for divorce. Now, David Bowie married Angie Bowie, first wife, during his Mercury Mahadasha, Mercury 12th house with two malefics here, Sun, Mars. It was a most unconventional relationship. Angie Bowie said later she only married David Bowie to get a visa, which may well be the case. Mercury's in the house of meeting people from foreign shores, definitely. You see, it's with two malefics, Mars and the Sun. It was a very open relationship, unconventional. They were both having openly love affairs, even together at the same time. This is a house of the bed, Mercury, Mars and the Sun. What more can I say? However, during the Venus Darakaraka, 20 long years to meet the soulmate. If you're lucky enough to have Venus Darakaraka during your lifetime, he met his second wife, Iman, a beautiful model. Everything in tune with the Venus Darakaraka. Far as I know, they had a happy, successful relationship, and they had one daughter. Let's look at Catherine, Princess of Wales, due to eventually be Queen of England, married to Prince William, the Prince of Wales. And the Darakaraka marriage significator for Catherine's soulmate is Rahu. Rahu means that people want to go outside of the box. Rahu Darakaraka people do not have the average relationship, that's for sure. So to marry into the royal family, I would say that's pure Rahu for Catherine, definitely. You might argue, well, hold on a minute. To marry a royal, isn't that Saturn? Isn't that tradition, old-fashioned values, etc.? Not at all. Not if you're not born in it. Okay, do you get my point? She's born outside of it. So for her, it's a Rahu thing. It's really outside of the box. It's a definite challenge. That's what Rahu Darakaraka people are definitely seeking. Now, let's look at the house placements. 12th house D1 and 5th house D9. Where did she meet Prince William? At university. School, larger institutions can be shown 12th house, but it's shown in the D9 chart. 5th house, learning. Very often meet a spouse in a learning environment. Of course, getting together with the Prince of Wales was not straightforward. There was some secrecy there. There was some difficulty. As I've said, Darakaraka, 12th house, there can be many ups and downs to begin with. They actually split up, I think, at least once publicly, maybe more than that, I would say. Because actually 12th house shows a really bumpy road to begin with. There's a definite fearful factor, fear of commitment coming up to begin with. And Darakaraka 5th house shows that life takes a whole new direction after you meet soulmate. Now, is Prince William her soulmate? When did she meet him? Princess Kate's Mahadasha of Rahu soulmate planet ran between 1986 and 2004, and she met Prince William in 2001. Definitely met soulmate in her soulmate Mahadasha. Check out part 1 of the series, Darakaraka Planets, right up on your screen. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below. Goodbye for now, and God bless everyone.